Now, while I think this is a fine product and something I'm going to continue to use, I'm just going to use it in a little bit different fashion. These are sonic or sonar tank sensors. They magnet right to the bottom of your tank and they shoot a sonar up through the tank. Your tanks are going to require some clearance. Put these sensors on here. So, okay, you can see here on this tank, I just had this one magneted to the bottom. And you can see on my screen there, the two tanks are already there. I'm at the button here, so I have a 30-pound vertical tank. Clever! If you recall, a few weeks back, I did a video and I put this new plug cover up here, so 7-way pin cover, and it has just recently rained a ton, and I wanted to show you what happens if rain gets in here. So it's a little corroded and wet. Now, that was not something I expected to happen, and I was a little shocked that it did. Let me go find a rag. Wipe out the cover here. Now, while I think this is a fine product and something I'm going to continue to use, I'm just going to use it in a little bit different fashion. So what I noticed was my right rear tail light was barely turned on one night when I went to take Piper out at dark. So that's the only time I could really notice it. But the tail light was really dark. So I'll show you a diagram on the screen of what all these pins do. But one's for the brake lights, one's are for the brakes, one's are for the reverse lights, one's are for the turn signals, and so on and so forth. But they all have a different function. But the one for that right rear tail light, the running light, we had enough corrosion between the two terminals there to cause a mild connection. So I ordered this 7-way spade pin towing maintenance kit, and I'll have this in a link in the show notes, and it'll be on our Amazon page. There was a different type of 7-way pin cleaner kit, but it's for 18-wheelers, and it does not fit over here. So it's a big yellow tube with brushes in it, and you can stick it in and brush out the brushes, but it's not for this type of plug, so don't make that mistake and buy that. And I'll put a picture on the screen here of what that thing looks like. It does not fit your trailer plugs. It's for 18-wheeler type 7-way pins. So this cleaning kit and maintenance kit, it's called, comes with a couple different things. All these brushes fit these pins quite nicely. And you have a brush pin here, and this is a really nice little kit here to keep. It has some cleaner and enhancer, and then you have a tester. So this is something you can put in the one on the receptacle side of your truck, and you can be able to test all of your functions using seeing the lights here. So if you ever need to verify if your light's out on the trailer or something else, you can verify that your 7-way pin is actually sending the signal utilizing this testing kit here. So this is a really handy thing to have if you don't currently have one, and all this stuff comes together in one nice little format here. So I appreciate that very much. So this pin cleaner kit here, it's like a weapon cleaning kit, if you will. I can brush the board brush, but I just want to make sure that I get as much of this rust off of here as I can, as much of that green corrosion out of here as I can. Keep these connections clean. And this little spade tool in here, push in and out. Put a little bit of this grease on here. Okay, so we got that all cleaned up, nice and good. And it shows you on the back here what you could use the various tools for. One's for the male side, one's for the female side. So how to clean the connectors with your various devices here, and you have the scrub brush and the spade again. So one of these tools is for your vehicle side and one's for your trailer side. So this is a really nice little setup kit here, cheap enough. You can order it. Again, I'll put it in the show notes down below. So if you choose to put the cover on, and I had a cover on the old rig, I had the same issue. I didn't mention this on the video, but the cover's nice, but it's not hermetically sealed. It's not waterproof. So the only way to keep water from getting in there would be to store this way so water hits the top. And there's no real good place to do that unless you have that cover that goes over your front nose jack. And I don't have the cover anymore. I may reinvest in that cover because it was a really nice cover, and it allowed me to keep my plug up here, and it allowed me a place to hook the chains on the side. So I put that cover on the old rig, and I may order a new one and put it on here too. But this is an option if you need it. But again, if water will drip down in between the cover and the thing itself, keeping water trapped in there, it doesn't let it evaporate. So make sure if it does rain and you have that cover on, you give it some space and time to breathe. All right, what I really want to chat with you today about is my new tank monitoring sensors. So from Mopeka. I actually put these on already, but I realized that there was a flaw because I failed to order the right thing. So I'm re-recording the video, and I will kind of go through the steps and process of how this works. But these are sonic or sonar tank sensors. They magnet right to the bottom of your tank, and they shoot a sonar up through the tank, and it gives you a gauge of how much propane is left in your tank. It's not something I've ever had before, and it's not something I really ever thought I needed that much before, but it's a cheap enough option to add to your rig. Unless you have the Pottery Barn or the Classic that has a monitoring system already built in, this could be something you find useful. So I'll go through what they are and how to set them up, and I'll show you the app, which is super handy. But this is what I failed to order the first time, these things right here. And they are just some little covers that keep them attached to the bottom of the tanks. Because right now I could reach up under my tank cover right here and I could pull those tank sensors right off. And my fear was, what happens when you drive down the road and hit a big bump? Do they bounce off and bounce down the highway? Probably. So that's what these things right here are for. So let's get this tank cover off. Gotta get my keys. So my tank is locked using the Torque Lift Central Fortress gas lock. If you haven't seen me put that on in a video, it's out there. I can link it right here in the top of this video. But this lock is a pretty robust setup, something I really like. Keeping my tank secure to the rig no matter where it's at. Not only the tanks, but the tank cover, because it locks it all together. My two tanks here, I'm going to turn the propane off. Nothing inside using the propane right now. Disconnect. So if you've gone back to our original videos where I did all the upgrades on here, you know that I put on these Mopeka tank halos, and it's just a rubber gasket that sits on the bottom. It gives the tank just a little bit of a raise up gap, and it keeps the bottoms from beating up against the frame here, metal on metal, causing rust and things like that. So that's one reason I like them. Now, if your tanks are going to require some clearance to put these sensors on here. So they send these little aluminum tabs you can put on your tank around it to give it a little bit of a, a 1/4 inch boost up taller to make it taller. Now I don't know, when I put these set up on here, these are going to hold the tank sensor inside this, and this is going to be glued to the bottom of the tank there. I don't know if I'm going to have enough space, so I may have to use those spacers, which would probably prohibit me from using my tank halo here. So we'll see how that works out. So here is the tank sensor. It's a very simple device. It magnets to the bottom. You put a little sensor grease on there, and it uses the sonar to go up and down to be able to check it out. And it's a sync button on here, and you have an app, which is super easy to use. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to clean off the bottom of this tank. There's a little bit of 3M primer in here. So this little primer here just preps the battlefield, so to speak, preps the tank for the glue. It's a 3M double-sided sticky tape glue here, so I got the primer on. Let that dry. I'm gonna get a dry cloth. The hardest thing to do with these sensors here is getting it centered, perfectly centered on the bottom of the tank. So that's one of your most difficult aspects. All right, so that clips on, snaps on, and then now we'll put a little bit of this Mopeka Sonic grease on here. Just put a little dab right on the sensor there. Didn't take much, just a little bit. And we're going to place that sensor on the bottom of the tank, and it magnets right to it. Put this cover back on. Right, so that's good on there. Put my tank halo back on. And I'm going to turn this over. Set it back up here where it normally sits. See what I got. So I still have my plenty of gap. And the tank sits in here like it should. Now what I will need to do is open up the app. And I'll show that momentarily, but I got to open up the app. And then once the tank has been sitting where it needs to be sitting, then you hit re-level, and it levels the tank, and it will start shooting the sonar again. So I'm going to bring the camera in a little closer and show you how that same setup on the other tank. Okay, you can see here on this tank, I just had this one magneted to the bottom. No big deal. So I'm going to clean that off. Wipe this down. Grab my prep stick here. So it comes with one stick per, so let me break this glass. Any road grime or grease or whatever else might have splashed up on the bottom here. And you can still see a little bit of rust on the bottom of this tank here and all the rust spots on the tank itself from just being in the elements all the time. Particularly, we've been in the southeast for a while, so it's always humid. Put that on. Now, these little clips, I used the key last time, but you can use a little flathead screwdriver to pop these clips up one at a time. Once you get about 3 or 4 of them off, the whole thing will pop up like that. Dab of Sonic grease here. Just a little bit, doesn't take much. And then we'll censor that one down here. Now, there's a sync button and a vent here for this thing, so the sync button helps you sync it to the app. Right, that was locked on. Tank halo back installed. Let's put this tank back on top. What I'm looking for is make sure that is not touching the frame, and there's not much of a gap, but there's a little bit of a gap. So you don't want this rubbing against the frame. Now you can download the app from your app store or wherever you get your apps for your smart device. I've already downloaded it here, so I'm just going to open it up. Mopeka Tank Sensor, and you can see on my screen there the 2 tanks are already there. Now setting these up is extremely simple. It picks it up right away. It's a Bluetooth type signal, and on the actual device itself you hit sync and it syncs it right away, and then you go through here and you select what type of tank you have. So picking this tank, I'm going to hit the button here, so I have a 30-pound vertical tank. And you can have it in percent, centimeters, whatever else you want to have it set up to. There's all sorts of settings here. You can change the alarm threshold. I know that this tank has 70% in it because we've used it to heat the rig for quite a while, so 70% is accurate. There is also a push button device if you don't have one of these and you just want something to leave in your rig permanently. You can also use these tank sensors for the grill at home too to know what kind of tank propanes you have in those. But super handy. They make them for all sorts of sizes tanks. I'm very, very happy with this. You can see the battery level on here, quality of the signal, so on and so forth. Now, once you have centered your sensors on your tanks and you get them set up, and I'm not going to do this until I put the propane tank cover back on and everything's kind of locked into place. At that time, I'll go to sensor position and I'll hit 0 sensor so it knows that it is centered on the tank and that's where it's going to be, and that'll know its position where the trailer is level and the tanks are centered as much as they're going to be, because these tanks move just a little bit once you put the cover on. So I'm not going to zero everything until I put the cover on, and that's where it needs to be. But you can see both tanks on there. Super handy, super easy to use, and it's something I'm a big fan of. And thanks for making cool devices. And I paid for these. These are not a free advertisement. This is Brad. This is just my opinion on these things, and I think it's a wonderful option for your RV, Airstream, doesn't matter what you have. All right, now that my tank cover's back on, I'm going to zero these sensors. Sensor position, 0, okay. Sensor position, 0, okay.
Hi, baby.
Wait.
It's my fault. Sorry.
No worries.
You read?
Piper!
That's all right. To fix the brakes. Come here, Piper. I'm so sorry. We just teared stuff down. I'm so sorry.
I just saw you and I wanted to say hi.
I know. I'm sorry about that.
No worries. Happens all the time.
See you, man. See you later, Piper. Next time we'll watch your rope. I'll be back.